Help me hit 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought a Tuesday night would change everything. My name is Elliot, 39, and I've been married to Clara for 14 years. We've had our ups and downs, like anyone does. But I always believed in us. At least, I thought I did. And I thought she did too. Clara was vibrant when we first met. A laugh that could fill an entire room. A spark in her eyes that made you feel alive just being near her. I was quieter, more careful with my words, steady and predictable. People used to say we balanced each other, and for the first decade I believed them. We built routines, shared dreams, paid bills, and raised our little whirlwind of a daughter, Lola. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Then came the night she said it. I was in the living room finishing a spreadsheet on my laptop, headphones on, completely absorbed in work. Clara appeared in the doorway, leaning casually against the frame. "Elliot," she said, her voice soft but firm, almost rehearsed. "He's taking me tonight." I froze, my hands hovering over the keyboard. My mind scrambled to make the words fit into some version of reality that made sense. I thought maybe she meant a coworker helping with a project, maybe a friend from her book club, but no. The color drained from her face as she watched me. The truth hit me like ice water. "Excuse me?" I asked carefully, forcing my voice to stay steady. My body wanted to erupt, to demand answers, to scream, but instead I just stared at her. Clara's eyes flickered with hesitation. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I I just... He asked me out tonight," she muttered, like the words themselves shocked her. I leaned back in my chair, gripping the armrests until my knuckles turned white. My thoughts raced, but my voice stayed calm. "You mean he's taking you on a date?" "Yes," she whispered, barely audible. The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. Not the silence of anger or tension. This was the kind that settles in when your entire world shifts and you realize the foundation beneath you is cracking. I closed my laptop slowly, each click sounding like a nail being driven into the room. I didn't take my eyes off her. "Clara, who is he?" Her gaze dropped. "His name is Logan. He's on my work team." The words barely registered. I knew she worked closely with Logan, of course, but I had never imagined this. I wanted to demand explanations, but the truth was already there. The subtle distance. The way she flinched when I touched her. The evenings she spent scrolling on her phone while I tried to reconnect. It all snapped into place like the final piece of a puzzle I had been avoiding. Something inside me broke. Not with anger or rage, but with clarity. I realized I had been pretending everything was fine, convincing myself that the small signs were temporary, that she was just tired or stressed. But tonight, the truth was impossible to ignore. Clara's lips trembled. "Elliot, I didn't mean for it to... I didn't know how to tell you." I raised my hand. "Stop. Don't try. Don't explain. Not now." And just like that, I understood something painful and vital. I had been the only one fighting for a marriage she had already let go of. For years, I poured everything into us. My love, my loyalty, my attention. And she had quietly stepped away, little by little, until tonight. I stood up slowly, every movement deliberate, every breath controlled. I needed clarity without shouting, without begging, without tears she might not even notice anymore. "Clara," I said, my voice firm and steady. "I'm not going to stop living because you decided to stop caring." Her eyes widened, a mix of shock and guilt, but I didn't wait for a response. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my overnight bag, packed clothes, a toothbrush, my wallet. I paused at the door and looked at her one last time. She opened her mouth, maybe to speak, maybe to stop me, but I didn't wait. I walked out, The cool night air hit my face the moment I stepped outside, and for the first time in years I felt clarity, not relief, not joy, not even anger, just clarity, sharp and bitter, like the edge of a blade, but it was mine. I drove without thinking, letting the streets decide where I went. 20 minutes later, I found myself outside my best friend Theo's house. He was the only person I trusted enough to just exist with, without talking or pretending. I knocked. He let me in without questions. Sitting on his couch, staring at the muted TV, one thought finally settled in my mind. I am done convincing her to love me. If she wants to leave, let her. But I won't disappear in the process. I won't lose myself. That's when my phone buzzed. A message from Clara. I didn't look. Not yet. I didn't need to. The silence said more than any explanation ever could. The next morning, I woke up on Theo's couch with a strange sense of calm. My head ached, slightly from restless sleep, but my mind felt sharper than it had in years. I thought about Clara, about Logan, about every quiet night I spent wondering where she had gone. And then it hit me. I had a choice. I could sink into anger and regret, or I could reclaim my life. I chose the latter. After breakfast, Theo and I sat on his porch with coffee as the sun rose, painting the neighborhood in soft light. "You okay?" he asked, not sugarcoating it. "I will be," I said slowly. "I just need to set some things straight." "Not with her," he said. "No," I replied, "with myself." He nodded. "Good. That's what matters." I returned home that afternoon. The apartment was quiet in a way it hadn't been in years. Clara's absence was deafening, but strangely freeing. I opened her side of the closet, looked at her neatly folded clothes, then closed it again. No anger, no bitterness, just acceptance. Then I finally read the message I had ignored. "Clara, Elliot, we need to talk, please." I stared at it for a long time. I could feel the panic behind the words, the fear hiding beneath the polite request. But I didn't respond right away. I had learned something important. Timing matters. And for the first time, I was in control. Reacting in the heat of emotion would have only handed her power over me again. Instead, I chose my response carefully, calm, clear, and unyielding. "Clara, I have nothing to say right now. I need time. Please respect that." Hours passed. No reply. And with every passing minute, I felt lighter, freer. By evening, I knew it was time to act. Not out of revenge, not to provoke confrontation, but to reclaim control. I called the bank, removed her access to our shared credit accounts, and reviewed our finances to make sure everything was secure. Not out of spite, but to set boundaries, to draw a line that belonged to me. There was no anger in it, no shouting, no drama, no scenes ripped from a soap opera. It was precise, intentional, and completely calm. And within that calm, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: power over my own life. The next day, Clara showed up at the door. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes wide, her voice unsteady. "Elliot!" I raised a hand, stopping her mid-word. "Stop. Not today. I have nothing to discuss with you. If you need to reach me, do it through proper channels. Until then, I'm moving forward." Her lips tightened into a thin line. I could see her searching for a reaction, trying to pull something out of me. But there was nothing to grasp. No pleading, no guilt, no desperation. I had become unreachable, emotionally sealed. And finally, there was silence. She turned and walked away. I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing deeply. The house felt different. Not empty, not sad, calm. Like I had finally carved out a space where no one else could dictate my worth or my peace. Over the next few weeks, I rebuilt routines that belonged only to me: morning walks, cooking meals I actually enjoyed, reconnecting with friends I had slowly drifted from. Each step forward was small, almost invisible, but every one of them was mine. One evening I met Maya, a friend of a friend. She wasn't trying to save me. She wanted nothing from me except conversation. We laughed, traded stories, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the warmth of a simple, uncomplicated connection. I thought about Clara from time to time, as anyone would, but instead of pain, there was perspective. I had loved her. I had given everything I had. But love only holds value when it's shared, when it's mutual. And when it isn't, leaving isn't failure. It's survival. It's been 3 months since that night. The apartment is quieter, yes, but it's also mine. I've discovered a strength I didn't know I possessed. A patience that feels like armor. A clarity that feels like sunlight after a storm. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at small things. Lola's drawings on the fridge. A random text from Theo. The way the morning light spills across the porch. And I realize this is life. Not perfect, not flawless, but mine. Clara is part of my story, yes, but she's no longer the author. I am. And tonight, when I lock the door and catch my reflection in the hallway mirror, I see a man who endured, who survived, and who finally understands a simple truth. Sometimes the most powerful act of love you can give yourself is walking away. I don't need fireworks. I don't need apologies. I don't need her to return. I just need myself, whole, untethered, and finally free.